So in the words of the man himself, it wasn't quite a Ferrari this evening, it was a Range Rover Sport. Celtic get their first win of the Europa League campaign. It's a huge win, and dare I say, a much improved performance, something that we were needing for so many reasons, not just for the 3 points, but the wider context surrounding the 3 points. We needed a booster, we needed some positivity, and we needed a sign that there was still something to be excited about with this team. And honestly, I left Celtic Park tonight with that feeling. I felt good about it. I'm very happy. Did it paper over the cracks? It shouldn't. I think there's still issues, there's still problems, and there's still work to be done. But what it was a win. And unless you actively wanted Celtic to lose tonight, then that's pretty damn good. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a pretty late match reaction for Celtic 2, Sturm Graz 1. This could have been a very different match reaction at half-time. I was honestly expecting to come back to the house and I was expecting to sit here and talk to yous like the way that I've had to talk to yous after the last few games, with a lot of negativity and a lot of worry about where we were moving forward. I thought we were staring down the barrel of Celtic once again dropping out to points and dropping to teams we should be beating in the Europa League, especially at Celtic Park. But the thing is about it, right, even when we were down at half-time, and even when it was 1-0 Sturm Graz, and even when we went into half-time with that nervousness surrounding us, I thought it was very, different from the likes of Dundee. I thought it was very different from the likes of Braga. It was a game in which I didn't think we deserved to be 1-0 down. It was a game in which I thought we were actually the better team, and although far from perfect, playing some pretty decent stuff. The big thing about the two halves of football that we saw today was Celtic went out, set up in a way to play football, to win a game, and play pretty well. But it was a Celtic team that was sent out with a real lack of quality. And that's where the problems lie for Celtic right now. Because this is what I'm going to say, and I think a lot of people are sharing this opinion. I know a lot of my mates who I've spoke to after the game are sharing the same opinion. If this was any other year with any other squad, and we actually invested in talent, Celtic probably win that game. And I'm not joking, 5-1 tonight, 6-1 tonight. We had so many chances. And the real worry for me coming out of the game is I want to try and keep this match reaction as positive as possible, because do you know what? We have been drained of positivity. And if you want to call me a happy clapper for it, fair enough. But I'm fed up moaning. I don't want to moan all the time. But the only real negative is it is still very, very worrying, the lack of quality that we have in the final third. And that will hold Celtic back this season. I mean, that's just fact at this point. I think we've all accepted that as a Celtic support. I don't think there's anybody really trying to combat that point. When it comes to the final third, we just don't have the quality to go and finish off games and to be decisive in these games. And that's what's going to hold us back from really doing what we should be doing between now and January. Now, will the Celtic board go out in January and fix that issue? I'm not exactly full of faith that will happen, so it might hold us back all season. But tonight, if you've got a quality striker up there, a quality striker that you've paid money for, and don't get me wrong, Iheanacho was unlucky to drop off with injury minutes into the game, so it could have been very different if he was still on the park. But if you go out and you spend quality money on a fit and firing striker, you probably bury a lot of those chances tonight. If you're having a player in the final third on the right wing who's meant to be a right winger, you're probably creating and scoring more chances. Poor Sebastian Tenecki was doing all the heavy lifting in the final third for Celtic today, and that's what held us back from really unlocking more goals and more potential from a performance tonight. Because I think defensively there was worries. We'll come to that, but we were fine for large portions of the game. In the midfield, I'll say it, I think it's probably our best performance of the season in the midfield. I've not got any doubt in my mind about that. I think in the middle of the park, that's the best we've looked all season. The real problems this evening came from that front three. And Rodgers has been under fire recent weeks, and rightly so, because we've been poor, the setup's been poor, the tactics, the decision making, it's all been poor. But tonight, as the half-time whistle went, I turned to Kieran and I said, Rodgers obviously isn't exempt from blame here, but what else is he meant to do if we can't bury these chances? We're missing sitters, we're missing headers for fucking yards out. It's not as if Rodgers has much control over that. So, it's one of those ones that tonight, I'm happy. I think there's a lot more positives than negatives to take away from the performance, but that is the worry, and that is the struggle we're going to have, especially in these European games with that final third, and then that front three. Because as good as Tanecki was tonight, and as all the heavy lifting he done, he still lacks that decisiveness and that ruthlessness that gets you goals. You know, you could tell Maeda, for example, is a huge miss. You can tell that we're still missing the goals of Nicholas Kuhn, of Kyogo, and I know these are things that we just keep banging the drum about and we keep talking about, but there's a reason we keep talking about them, because we haven't replaced them and it's holding us back in games. Tonight could have been a whitewash. It could have been one of the great European nights at Celtic Park with loads of goals to talk about, but we get 3 points, and to be honest, I'll take them in any way we can get them right now. For me, there was also just a big difference in why Sturm Graz went into the half 1 goal up, you know, and that is the fact that they took a risk. They took a gamble. And how many times are teams going to score screamers into us at Celtic Park? How many times are we going to concede goals from outside the box at Celtic Park? You know, these moments where you kind of look and you go, there's nothing we can do about it. But do you know what's so frustrating? It's showing Celtic what we should be doing, because one of the other problems that we have, you talk about the lack of finishing and the ability in the in the final the final third. But we also just have a team, and in the first half, what I'll say is, and I stick by the second half, they improved on it big time. I'm not trying to throw anybody under a bus here. But we have a team full of shite bags, man. They don't want to shoot. They don't want to be the one that takes the shot. We're looking for that final pass. We're doing one thing too many, and it's holding us back. And then you've got teams that are constantly coming to Celtic Park and showing us, hey, by the way, if you take your chance in a bit of space, you might end up scoring a screamer. Now, I'm not just asking Celtic to start shooting from 30 yards out constantly, 25, 30 yards, just constantly shooting, blazing it over the bar, putting it wide and wasting, build-ups and wasting attacks. But they are showing us that sometimes taking a risk, taking a chance, being brave and doing something can produce moments of magic. Remember all those years gone by when we had the likes of Nakamura, who would score screamers for fun, who would take a risk, and players similar to him who would take risks and it would produce something. We don't have that in the Celtic team. And the big difference, the reason that Sturm Graz were up 1-0 at half time is because they gambled and took a risk. And we were far too safe. We were far too safe. There was one too many attacks in that first half where we were just passing and passing and passing, and then it would get to the chance where somebody takes a shot and the next thing you know, you're closed down, it's blocked, it's out for a corner kick, and you've got nothing to show from your attack. And that, for me, is something that we need, especially when you don't have maybe that final third quality that you need. Then get a wee bit braver. Stop relying on your good foot, do something, bring somebody to the game and just work a bit of magic, you know. And I think Sturm Graz proved that to us, and so many teams are proving it to us at Celtic Park. Yeah, I get that you've got to have a balance to your game. I get that, I do. I'm not just asking us to suddenly throw the tactics out the window and just start shooting like it's fucking 2003. But I just think that we need to be a little bit more ambitious in what we try to do. Otherwise, in the first half, I actually thought that we were pretty decent all round. The midfield for me was the biggest difference tonight, and I've kind of alluded to that, and I'll touch on it a bit more now. But that, for me, Engels has to be in that team every week. And I know. Do you know what the funny thing is we're probably going to do circles with this, aren't we? We're going to see Engels have a poor game at some point, and then people are going to say he's not good enough, and that he shouldn't be in there, and that we need to be playing somebody else. But for me, he needs to be in that team every week. I thought he was a big difference in the middle of the park for me today. And Callum McGregor, somebody who I have been very critical of so far this season, and rightfully so, because he hasn't been good enough. He has his best game in the middle of the park tonight. And what a difference that makes when you have Callum McGregor playing well. It changes the way that Celtic approach a game. It changes the urgency and the pace of the game. It changes your discipline in the game. It just changes everything when McGregor's on it. You know, and tonight he was. I thought him and Engels looked brilliant. Hatate was the weakest out of the midfield three for me. He had to wait till the second half to really get more into it. He was just the way that he always is, too hot, too cold. But I just think from here on out, you've got to have those two in the middle of the park, McGregor and Engels, and then partner the third up, whether that's McCowan, whether that's Hatate, whether that's Nygren, who we'll come to when we talk about the second half. Midfield changed it for me. They really did. I mean, you've got Tierney playing well on the left-hand side as well tonight. That makes a big difference. Listen, first half, I genuinely thought we were quite good. Not perfect, far from perfect, still problems. But I felt like we were hard done by being 1-0 down. I really did. And that's what with the second half we had to pick things up. So let's talk about the second half. We came out, I thought, a little bit slow. I thought it was hard for us to find the momentum that we ended the first half with, and I was really worried as the time ticked on that we wouldn't find that again. And I was starting to lose faith in the manager a little bit. I thought he was taking too long to bring on a sub. I thought he was taking too long to really change what wasn't working in the second half. And boy, was I wrong, because we found 2 goals pretty quickly to turn the game on its head. And I guess that's maybe the virtue of patience, if you have that. And at this time, where Celtic aren't playing so well, when we aren't getting results going our way, that's when the patience of the wider Celtic support starts to disappear. Things get a bit tense in the ground. People seem to lose their composure a little bit, and it's perfectly understandable. But fair play to Rodgers for bearing through with the patience. I don't know if it's down to more luck than anything, because it's Liam Scales who bails us out and gets the equaliser. If Scales doesn't score in that moment, it could have been a very different story. But that just shows you, you're relying on Liam Scales over your attackers to come in and score a big goal. And it is a big goal. It's one of our biggest goals of the season so far. And he had a great game tonight, Liam Scales, by the way. But, you're relying on him to get you the goal. You shouldn't be relying on your centre-half. It's a very well-worked goal, and he takes his chance very well. Consider he could teach the attackers a lesson, But that sparked Celtic back to life. And you could see, as soon as we got that goal, and I called the second goal when it came, you could see that Sturm Graz were rocked. We needed that. And that's what this is. If we could just find ourselves and we could find quality in the final third, the difference it would make on games is unbelievable. Because if we scored early, Sturm Graz could have been done early. Game could have been done so early in the game. When we scored that goal, they were out of it. They were finished. When we went up and got the chance for the second goal, when we got the set piece that led to it, I said it right before the set piece was taken. We're going to score here. They look like they're shaking themselves. Bang! Next thing you know, Nygren's put it in the back of the net. And that's what I mean, when you can get a European night and you can get a goal and you can suddenly put teams in the back foot, it changes the whole game. It changes the complexity of what's ahead of you. And that's what we're missing. We can't keep going. I think there's an alarming stat about how Celtic have only scored 5 goals in the first half of games this season or something like that. And it's the 23rd of October, by the way. That needs to change, because when you have first half goals and when you put pressure on teams, suddenly life becomes a lot easier. That feels like a very Michael Owen comment to say. Duh, of course it is. It's very black and white to say that. But it's true. If you can get first half goals and you put the pressure on these teams, life becomes significantly easier, and playing on that pitch becomes significantly easier. Because you open the game up and you force them into doing things, and they need to take further gambles than what they already are when they're shooting from range. You're forcing them into playing longer passes, you're forcing them into stretching the game, you're forcing them to take more risks defensively. And if you get goals early, you do that, and they were shaken after we got that goal. They were shooketh. And bang, Benjamin Nygren makes it 2. And thank God he did, because I had a lot to say about Benjamin Nygren up to that point. They go down to 10 men and we see the game out in a professional manner. A very good and very professional manner. And I'm proud of Celtic tonight. I really am. We were staring adversity right in the eye. We were staring adversity dead in the face. And I said this at the Motherwell game, when we were down 2-1 to Motherwell, I said in my match reaction following that, I didn't know if Celtic still had it in them to chase games the way they did that day. And even though I thought they prove it to me, after Dundee, I thought it was gone again, and I was just, when we were down 1-0, I was finding it hard to believe we were actually going to do it tonight. So for them to prove it to us as a support that they have got it, especially when players are dropping like flies with injury and we've got a pretty poor squad on the pitch, that says a lot. It says a lot about the fight. It says a lot about the manager. It says a lot about the team. They've still got something to give, even when people doubt it. And listen, some people still aren't excused from problems. Brendan still has stuff to fix. Some players still have stuff to fix. But it says a lot that they still have something to give. So I think there's plenty of positives to take away. And I know a lot of people will say we might have got a wee bit lucky as well, because Sturm Graz had big chances and they could have very well equalised after they went down to 10 men. They could have very well won the game with their chances. But you've got to, this is a point I mentioned leaving the stadium tonight. Like, you've got to remember, when you go into a European game, no matter who you're playing, teams are going to have chances, and good chances. This isn't like we're playing Livingston, with all due respect to Livingston. We're playing the champions of Austria. They're of course going to have chances. But the big thing you've got to remember is Celtic had far more chances and far more moments where we went, we should have scored. So if you're outscoring them in those moments alone, you're doing something better. You are the better team. We deserve the win tonight. I'm not necessarily concerned about the chances we got away with tonight, because you need to get away with stuff in games like this. It's part and parcel of European football. Sometimes you need a bit of luck in your side. You make your luck, don't you? So that's just part and parcel of the game. And I think that's always got to be remembered when you're playing in Europe, to be quite honest. In terms of players in particular, I don't want to drag this review on too long. We'll talk about things more in depth tomorrow, because I really want to get this up by a good time tonight. But I feel like I wanted to talk about a few players and a few situations. The injury crisis is becoming a crisis, and that worries me, man, especially when you've got Tynecastle. Look, when life's getting tough for this team, for the manager, for us as fans, God is finding a way to make it tougher. He's took Alistair Johnston away from us again. He's taken Iheanacho away from us. He's taken Vickers away from us at the end of the game. I think there was talk about Scales taking a sore one as well, and he might be hurt. Where are we going to end up here, going to Tynecastle on Sunday? I don't think Rodgers has clarified the extent of any of these knocks after the game, but man, it's not good. And I see I see that Rodgers has taken a lot of stick for Johnson going off tonight and maybe rushing them back. But I'm just going to be brutally honest. Because, well, number one, I would be a hypocrite, because I sat here and I said I'd play Johnson no matter what. So if you want to hate on me for that, feel free to do it. But I would have rather Johnson on that park tonight than any of the other two. And it's just unlucky. He was fit. He was cleared to play. That was that. Was he rushed in? Maybe he was. But at the end of the day, this is sport. They're athletes. These things happen. It's unfortunate. Is it short-sighted? Maybe it is. Of course it maybe is. But I wanted him on that park tonight. And it's just unfortunate the way it happens. I'm sure Alistair Johnston wanted to play tonight. So, we'll hope it's not too bad. And the other injuries, we're suffering, Chief. We're suffering. Simple as that. We really are. But in terms of other players, Nygren, man, I know he got a goal tonight, and I'm very thankful for that, and in a very big moment. And once again, it doesn't matter how poorly he plays, he seems to chip into goals. And I mean, does that mean you overlook how poorly he plays? Because up until the goal, oh my goodness, Nygren Yahoo was on fire tonight. He was dropping one of the all-time stinkers at Celtic Park. Very, very concerning, the level he was playing up to that point. But he got a goal, kind of changed them. That needs to, we need better from him. We really, really do. Kenny struggled. If he had a brain, he'd be dangerous, that boy, because he shows signs and then he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the X factor. It's like when he gets in between the goalposts, he forgets what to do. I like the glimpse of Balak Wisha and his cameo in the last 20 minutes or so. I thought he looked active. I think he looked good. You can clearly see he thrives on that left-hand side. As I said, Engels, McGregor were both brilliant. Tierney thought he had one of his better games tonight. Donovan done well enough, but you can, as I've said before, very raw. Still needs polished. Needs to learn how to pass a football. But he came on and he done a good enough job on that right hand side. Schmeichel, a lot's been made out of. I need to go back and watch the goal. That's my kind of rundown of the team. That's my rundown of the game. Yeah. It's a bit of a long and lengthy match reaction. Apologies for rushing through it though. It's nearly 11 o'clock. I need to get this video up tonight. So on that note, we'll be back to talk about things in depth tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourself. It's a huge 3 points for Celtic and I'm smiling about that. I really am. I needed that. I did. See you next time.